Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Get Stuck on Sports TV edition right here on Thumb Coast TV. I'm Brady Beedon. He's Dennis Stucky, and the basketball season is starting to draw to a close. We have some league title races that have already been decided. We have some that are coming down to the wire. Let's start with the one that has been decided. Port Huron High just keeps winning, and they won their way to a MAC Gold title. They are 16-2 overall. They are 9-0 now in the MAC Gold. They are the outright gold champs. It's their third straight league title, and I don't want the fact to be lost that when they started this run, they hadn't won a league title in 2 decades, and now they've won 3 in 3 years, and this is after bumping up from the silver.
You know, and I want to get real excited about this team because I really like Jaden Carswell. I like Trayvon Thompson. I like Tassan Lund. I like Garrett James. I like Jackson Rowe. I like this team. But they're going to a district of death, and I feel like it's a shame that league championship is kind of where I put them at this time, because I'd like to believe they could win that district, but can I really believe that?
Well, at least for the league, they won that. They're 25-4 in their last 29 league games. They have been spectacular. They are 1 game away from running the table. They have a game at Lakeview. They'll probably go 10-0 in the Gold. So I do want to give credit where it's due. We'll get to the districts and what's going ahead at a later time. But for now, they're getting another year on the banner, and they're getting another trophy in the trophy case.
Yeah, and these are all steps in the positive direction for a team that for years we said, the biggest opponent for PH is PH. They get in their own way. They seem to have gotten past that.
Yes, they have, and to another league title again. They kind of dominated their way through. They had to win a close one against St. Clair. They had to go on the road and win a couple tight ones, but they found a way, and PH league champs again. We'll stay in the Gold before we hop around. St. Clair is going to end up second place in that league, 7-2. They're 14-5. They're kind of at a point where, all right, the league title's out of reach. They only have 3 games left until the postseason. They've already kind of have the 1 seed wrapped up in their district. They're just focused on playing good basketball and keeping that momentum going once districts hit in a couple weeks.
And certainly in their most recent game, they went to New Haven. They hadn't won in New Haven for a long time.
Since 2010.
Yeah, so they got to win there. That shows me that they're focused, because it would be real easy at this point to go, these last few games don't matter. I don't think they're going to do that. I think they do matter. And I know keeping that number 1 seed is a big deal to them.
And St. Clair, 14-5 overall, 7-2 in league play. Those 2 were the aforementioned games to PH. Of their 5 losses, they've all been to Division I opponents. St. Clair, a D2 school. 2 PH losses, a Northern loss, an Anchor Bay loss, and a 13-point loss to an undefeated 18-0 Oxford team. Now, that Anchor Bay loss may be one you'd want back, but the rest are the teams that are pretty darn good.
I saw the Anchor Bay game. Yeah, it wasn't St. Clair's best performance, but Anchor Bay played well, and it was a shot at the buzzer that they lost the game. A lot of nights that shot doesn't go in, and you go, we got out of here with a 1-point win.
And they were battling injuries, too, at the time. Okay, Northern. They're 12-7, and on surface, it's a nice record. 12-7, you're winning more than you're losing, and you're going, okay, they're a decent team. Folks, I'm going to tell you, there's not a lot of teams. There's none in the area, I will say straight up, with their schedule that would be 12-7. There's not a lot of teams around the state that would be 12-7 with their schedule. They have played Murderers Row. Of the first 19 games they've played, St. Clair's been one of the easier games. PH has been one of the easier games. And we just got done for 5 minutes raving about how good they are. They are second place in the MAC Red now. In all likelihood, they won't win. Mathematically, they're still in it. They need Lincoln to lose their final 2 games. Lincoln's 8-0 in the Red, 15-4 overall. It would be a surprise if they lost their final 2. But you could make a case, besides Warren Lincoln, who, by the way, is the defending D2 state champion, Port Huron Northern could be the second best team in the entire MAC, all 36 teams.
Yeah, I don't think that's a stretch. They had a nice win over Flint Powers recently. There was that stretch in the middle of the season where it wasn't that they were losing the games, it was that they were giving up a lot of points. And they have really seemed to turn that around. Defense has become a priority for them, and they're still going to score because there's just too much there. Haru recently, 1,000 points. I don't know how close Alex Jamison is, but he's got to be pretty close. There's a lot of good going on at Northern, and I agree with you. We said at the start of the year, hey, if this team goes, a game around 500, that was pretty good with the schedule that they drew up. Well, they're a little bit better than that.
Yeah, they have been pretty darn good, and again, they had a 4-game slide. That's 4 of their 7 losses. Besides that, they've been pretty good. They were competitive with Warren Lincoln the second time around. They've had a clunker, but those were all kind of concentrated right around the Christmas break, New Year, which if there is a time of the season where you expect some clunkers, that's kind of where it is. But they have a chance to really prove what they can do. But we've said it kind of at the beginning of the year, and I think it rings true now. The districts are where it matters. Hey, they won, 3 straight league titles or 2 out of 3 years or whatever it was. They were like 28-2 over 3 years in league. They've been there and done that. They haven't won a district in a long, long time, and they're hoping that this can be the group to finally get it done. Now, it won't be easy. Right now, them and PH are the top 2 seeds in their district. The district's at PH. While it's not a home game for Northern, it might as well be a home game against anyone not named Port Huron High. They're setting themselves up for a chance to do something they haven't done in these kids' lifetimes.
Yeah, and when you look at it, they've already beaten Dakota, twice this year, and they handled PH the first time. That's one of PH's 2 losses. So they've got to be feeling good about going into the district this year, and they've got to feel like they're the team to beat.
Yes.
And it's been a while since they've been in that position. Even when they hosted the thing with Tyler Jamison, they still weren't 100% the team to beat.
No, and they obviously fell a little short. Let's go to the MAC Silver real quick. Marysville technically has I believe they are now mathematically eliminated. There's a game in flux that they claim is a forfeit win over Centerline. I don't know how officially recognized that is. We'll see where that goes. But the state has it up right now. Marysville's listed as 11-7 overall. It's a team below 500, and if you count the forfeit win, they're on an 8-game winning streak, which, do the math, means they were, 3-8 at one point?
Yeah.
And now they're 11-7, or 3-7, excuse me, and now they're 11-7. Mackay coming back makes a big difference. No coincidence that it correlates when he got back from injury, got back into the fold, and now they're winning a lot of games.
But it's not just what he's doing, it's how he makes the other guys around him better, and I think they're more relaxed. Like there's a lot of pressure off guys, and now they can just go out and play. Cole Horan can just make shots because if one doesn't go in, Mackay might pick that hoop up for you later in the game, or somebody else will. Whereas early in the season, it's like, I've got to score or else.
Right.
And so it takes a lot of heat off of a lot of guys, and they can relax and play good basketball.
So with the league out of reach for them, they're hosting the district as well. Now, St. Clair I would consider them a heavy favorite to win this district. But Marysville could get them at home, and if they play well this week, the way the new system works with MPR, they seed the entire district. If they can get the 3 seed, then they don't have to worry about seeing St. Clair until the district championship on that Friday night.
Yeah, I still think the Saints are the favorite in this, but there are a lot of, we call them landmines. There are a lot of landmine teams in this district. And if you're Marysville, you want to get the best matchup you can and not have to face the Saints until the very end. And I don't know who that team is for St. Clair that they're looking at going, I hope we don't have to play them till the end.
If I had to give, from my perspective, it would be the home team. You don't want to play a team in their own gym, especially when they're, again, have won 8 in a row, and are hoping to have that streak continue into the postseason because they know this is a group that can maybe knock them off. Marine City also in the silver. They're 4-12 overall, 2-6 in league play. They're struggling a bit, but hoping to pick up some wins down the stretch.
Yeah, just keep playing good basketball, and anything that you do come district time is gravy for you.
So the BWAC race is not mathematically finished yet.
It's over.
But for all intents and purposes, it would take some pretty, I don't want to say pretty shocking, a couple surprising results in a row. Yale has dominated their way through. They're 11-0. They've won every BWAC game by double figures, 18-1 overall. They have a 2-game lead on Imlay City, who's 9-2. Unfortunately for Imlay City, Xander Nash, their star player, their leading scorer, went out on Saturday against Centerline. Don't know when he'll be back, but I don't think he'll be back in the next game. So however long he's out is going to hurt Imlay City. Croslex, they're 7-3 in league play, 11-5 overall. They've actually been playing some decent basketball. The problem is they have a loss to North Branch earlier in the year. That hurts them. They lost to Imlay City. They lost to Yale. They would need the Bulldogs of Yale to lose 3 straight to give them a shot at a share of the league title.
Here's the thing, and I don't know that Imlay City or Croslex can catch them, but based on remaining schedule and health, Croslex has the easier remaining schedule. They have a heads-up game with Yale, but again, I can see Yale losing a game. It's tough to go 14-0. I just can't see them losing their remaining 3 games. I don't think that's going to happen. And for Imlay City, if Nash is out for any length of time, they still have to play Yale one more time. And without Nash, Richmond and North Branch become tougher games. I just, to say that Croslex with 3 losses has an easier route to get there, well, no, because Yale has to lose all 3 games.
Now, Yale does play the 3 next best teams. They play Imlay City, they play Croslex, and they play Armada, who are 2, 3, and 4 in the BWAC.
But they've beaten all those teams already once this year.
They just have to get 1 to get a league title.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
1. By the way, for Yale as well, Jackson Kohler, another member of the 1,000-point club. He passed it in their win over Algonac last Friday. I mean, with a player like Kohler, it's kind of like, it comes with the territory. But we have a swath of 1,000-point scorers. Dennis, you've been doing this a long time. You can go seasons and not have a 1,000-point score to celebrate. I believe this is the 4th this year.
And we've 3 in the last week and a half.
Right, and 2 at Yale, because Sadie Dykstra went over it about a week and a half ago. So while it's been kind of commonplace this year, it's not commonplace to have this many 1,000-point scorers.
No, and it's been happening a lot. It's a testament to how good basketball has been the last 5 years in our area, because if you think about it, we've had more than just the 4 this year get there recently, and that was with COVID years in there too, that guys lost games and gals lost games. But we've had a lot of good scorers here recently, a lot of good players, and just 4 more this season, and we might not be done.
No, Braylon Franz was the other one. He did that, I think, back in December. He's over 1,200. Now, he might have an actual push at 2,000 points, which is an absurd milestone to hit. But Yale looks like they have a chance to win a league title. And I'm sure the members of that team that came back from last year's squad remember that they were in a similar spot. Now, they've already started off well when they beat Almont and they beat North Branch to continue their lead and further it, where last year they dropped a couple of those games, and that's what opened the door for Imlay City to get the outright league title.
I know we'll get more into it when we talk about the ladies, but Yale has a chance to win boys and girls titles this year in league, and they each had a 1,000-point score.
It'd be pretty special. We will talk about the girls' basketball standings when we come back. Also, hockey regional brackets are out. We'll touch on that as well when we return here on the Get Stuck on Sports TV edition right here on Thumbcoast TV.
From doctor's appointments to work, shopping, and dining adventures, Blue Water Area Transit buses are the lifeline of our community. Depend on us for a ride that connects you to life's essentials. Blue Water Area Transit. Ride the wave.
Riding the bus will avoid the hustle and save you lots of dough. Road rage, don't chance it. Ride Blue Water Transit everywhere you go.
Welcome back to the Get Stuck on Sports TV edition right here on Thumb Coast TV. Dennis, I'm Brady, and let's talk girls basketball. Not a lot of teams half our teams in the thick of the race. Other teams just trying to jockey for position in the postseason. We'll start in the red, where PH has struggled a bit. They're now 2-6 in the red, 8-9 overall. The red's pretty solid, and they've been on a little bit of an ebb recently as other teams have knocked them off.
Well, the top two teams in the red are terrific, and PH ran into Ford and Stevenson, and in between they had to play Dakota, Ike. I'm sorry, Stevenson's bad. And Ike is just a big, tough, physical team, and that was the third game of the stretch. Ford is a quick, explosive team. That's how they opened the week, and in the middle they had to play Dakota, who's not your typical Dakota team, but they're still Dakota, and it was a rough week for PH. We know this team is capable. You know, we forget too that there was change in the middle of the season with the coaching and all of that, and we don't know how that plays in with a team's psyche, how things got changed, how roles might get changed, because no two coaches do it exactly the same. But they have struggled of late, but this is a very talented team, and I have seen them at their best, and I think I've seen them at their worst. And their best is pretty good, but their worst is pretty bad.
So let's go to the MAC Blue, where we have one team in it, one team out of it. Marysville, while they are just 6-11 and 2-6 in league play, they picked up a huge win over Southlake that is going to affect who wins the MAC Blue. And they've been playing a lot better as of late. They threatened Port Huron Northern. They had a clunker against Fraser. But it's almost like
they dominated Croslex, and that's a good team.
Yeah, the Croslex win was one where everyone kind of went, huh? No, you flipped the score. That wasn't supposed to happen. So they've almost like leveled up and figured out how to play as with this group of girls. And while the league title is well out of reach, I'm a little nervous if I'm St. Clair or Armada in that district going, man, I really didn't want to have to worry about them this year.
Yeah, you didn't want if you were outside of Marysville, you didn't want them to figure it out.
Right.
But Ryan Ratchey pushes the buttons. The Quains, Ryan and Kendall Quain, have really started to score for them. We knew they'd play good defense. We knew they'd hustle. The question was, who was going to put the ball in the basket for them this year? And about midway through the season, something clicked there, and they figured it out. And the other thing that I love about Coach Ratchey and that I love about his teams, if something works, they just do it and do it and do it until you figure out that you've got to stop it.
Right. I saw them against, who was it? It was early in the season. Warren Mott. They ran about the same two plays, and it kept working, and he just went, okay, we're going to keep doing this. Because why fix it if it's not broke?
They did the same thing against Croslex. They ran the same play into the post. They did it with a couple of different girls, but it worked almost every time.
And they'll keep it simple, and it's gotten them a little spark here at the end of the season. The top of the MAC Blue is a jumbled mess. So right now, you have Southlake, you have Fraser. They're 6-2 in league. You have Chip Valley, you have Northern at 5-3 in league. All teams have games against each other, but for our purposes, Northern, with their 2 games left, they have to go to Fraser, one of the teams they're chasing, and they host Marysville, a team they've already beaten twice this year, once in the Weimer tournament and once in league play. So they need a little bit of help. Someone needs to beat Southlake. Southlake plays Fraser and Chip Valley. I know it's a lot of crisscross and wires everywhere. Northern, while they don't control their own destiny, if they win out, they have a pretty decent shot of getting a share of the league title.
Bottom line is Northern needs to win their remaining 2 games. Easier said than done because we already mentioned Marysville is playing better, and it's always tough to beat a team a third time. But they get that game at home. And so until a different result comes in, I got to say they're the favorite there. So the big one for them, they have to beat Fraser when they play them.
Yes, and that one's actually down at Fraser. That's a big one because they did drop a game to Chippewa Valley that put them a game back of everyone else and actually elevated Chippewa Valley into the discussion for a league title.
Yeah, you had 3 teams at 5-2 and Chip Valley at 4-3, and Northern actually took the lead midway through the fourth in that game, and then Chip Valley just closed out really strong and ended up winning by 10.
All right, let's go down to the MAC Gold. St. Clair was riding high. They finally hit their first road bump, a little bit of turbulence when they went down to Roseville. They lost by 10. And now they are 12-4 overall, 6-1 in MAC Gold play, same as Roseville. Good news, they'll get another crack at the Panthers at St. Clair next week, where they win that one. Assuming neither side trips up the rest of the way, they can win an outright MAC Gold title.
Yeah, and I'm going to say that maybe this is an anomaly because Roseville scored on St. Clair, and their forte is not letting people score on them. And they didn't have Schneider for that game, and that hurts them, I think, on the defensive side more than the offense, but Riley also can provide you 10 points in a game. And Russell had a great game. Unfortunately, it got wasted.
Yeah, so they are going to try to pick themselves up, bounce back. They have a game against Marine City later in the week. Always a fun rivalry with those two.
But you've got to win that game. They're in the same position. You got to win out here.
Because
and then things will take care of themselves.
Marine City's been kind of a rare middling team. They beat a lot of teams they should, and they usually do it pretty convincingly. But they don't have a win where you go, ooh, they jumped up and beat a really good team. They're kind of right down the middle. They're 7-10, which is not a bad mark for losing essentially everyone off of last year's team. They're 2-5 in league play. Just hoping to put up a few more wins before the district.
Well, and they played Fitz tough, and Fitz has got a girl that scores about 20 a game. So, and they held them into the 30s. So they can play people tough.
So that's all the MAC standings. The BWAC, it's pretty simple. I mean, the boys was simple. The girls, really simple. Yale's 10-0. They beat Armada, who's 9-1. Theoretically, Craws, Lex, or Emily City, who are 5-3. Mathematically can get back into it, but they're not getting back into it.
Now, this is a 2-team race, and it comes down to don't trip up in any of your games. And the head-to-head game between Yale and Armada will determine whether Yale is the outright champs or they have to share it with Armada.
Yeah, there's really not much else for Yale and Armada besides that game in the league. They do play some interesting non-league contests. Yale's going up to Sandusky actually today of recording, Monday the 10th. Sandusky's undefeated, and I like Sandusky picking this game up. And if Yale goes up there and do what I think they can do, they can really flex their muscle a little bit.
Yeah, interesting. I think it helps Sandusky having this one at home. But, and you know, I love Al. And I want him to just keep on winning and piling up the wins. But I don't know that they faced a team like Yale this year.
No. Yale, by the way, has given up 24 points in their last 2 games combined.
They held Lapeer to 8 points. That was just stupid.
Yeah, then they had a bad performance against Algonac. They gave up 16.
Yeah, what are you doing there?
One other game that I think is interesting at the end of the season for Yale, they go to Anchor Bay. Now, that's not till the end of the month, but that's a nice litmus test before district.
That Anchor Bay team is good.
For Armada, again, they have to go to Emily City and North Branch. The toughest non-Yale games you can get, but they should handle it. They've been on a warpath since that loss. They have been putting up points. They beat Cros-Lex by double digits. Yeah. They just absolutely thwopped Algonac. But in the non-league, they have Ike on the road. They're going to be a heavy underdog in that game.
Yes, I've seen Ike. Ike is a big bruising team. That's like playing a football team.
And then they're going to go to Flint Powers in another non-league game right before the district. So they expect big things, so they're going to go match up with some of the state's best.
And I like that. You got to see where you stand, because you know that once you get out of districts, every year our area teams start facing, the Lake Fentons and the Goodriches, and it always seems to end at regionals. So I like that you're testing yourself, because you've got to have an idea of, can you really go to a regional and win it?
Speaking of going to a regional and winning, Port Huron Hockey hasn't done that in a long time. Now, for those that might not know, in hockey, there's no district. You start right at the regional. There's less teams, so they start basically a step ahead. The regionals can have up to like 6 or 7 teams.
Yeah.
PH has struggled for a long time. This has been their best year in God knows how long. A long time.
A long time.
They are out in Flint for regionals. They open with Oxford, a team they've already beat this year, a chance to get a playoff win.
Yeah, and I like their chances to win. I don't like the draw after that, because the toughest team is Davison, and that's who they would play if they beat Oxford. If they could have gotten they've beaten some of the other teams that are on the other side of the bracket. And so I was kind of hoping it would line up that they wouldn't have to face Davison until the finals, and then you take a roll. But I guess if you're going to win the regional, you have to beat Davison. So, but I do think that they are going to win a playoff game this year. I do think they're going to beat Oxford. And I don't know, maybe there was one in there somewhere, but I don't think they've won a playoff game since the 90s.
Yeah, it's probably been around 20 years, if not longer. But good chance this year. D2, we're going to have a team win a regional game, because Northern and Thumb Legion open up against each other.
They play each other, so somebody's got to win that game. And then, again, the second round matchup would be Rochester-Adams, which I think is tougher for Thumb Legion than for Northern, but tough for both those teams.
Well, and again, when you're the 4 and the 5 seed in your region, it's kind of the consequence. It's no longer random draw where you can go, ooh, we got lucky and now we have an easier path to the regional final. It's, all right, well, we struggled in the regular season, so we essentially have a play-in game to have to play the number 1 seed.
Yeah. So that's a tough way to go, but it's the nature of the beast, and both those teams have struggled this year.
Marysville, they have to go down to Cranbrook. Cranbrook has their own rink, and they're hosting regionals. Now, the first round draw, you're not worried about. Grosse Pointe North.
Marysville's going to beat Grosse Pointe North. They might even mercy them.
Then they'd have to play the host school, Cranbrook, that might not threaten being the best team in D3. They might threaten being the best non-Catholic Central team in the state.
Yeah, Cranbrook is good. They're loaded, and again, it's at their place. They get the calls too there. But I remember a Viking team,
2011, I think.
That weren't supposed to win, and they went there, and somehow they figured it out. So I'm pretty confident they're going to win that first game, and then let's just, again, see what happens.
So those are the draws, Dennis. I mean, I like the opening round draws for basically all of our teams. The one we're guaranteed a winner, but didn't do enough work in the regular season to get a good second round draw.
Yeah, that's kind of the way it turned out for everybody. I love the first round draws for everybody, but when you get to that second game of the regional, it gets a lot tougher. Is it undoable or unthinkable for one of our teams to get to a regional final? I don't think so, but probably they're all underdogs when they get to the second game.
You wouldn't be holding your breath or putting a mortgage down on someone pulling off that upset.
No.
But again, we saw last year, Northern, no one was really picking them to beat De La Salle. In fact, they kind of got thumped by them, the matchup, not too far before districts or regionals, and then they upset them in the regional final, and that was probably the biggest upset we had all year in any sport.
Yeah, and again, you get a hot goalie. Northern got a hot goalie last year come postseason. The other thing, like with PH, Davison beat them, but Case Van Single wasn't playing yet when they played that game. And
it was also in
he's early, up to 35 goals now.
It was early December.
It was like the second or third game of the season.
Yeah, so that was, again, might as well have been 3 years ago now. So maybe of all the teams, PH has the best shot.
Well, we'll see, because they do have a long way to turn that one around. They did get mercied.
Yes, it will be a high hill to climb. That'll do it for this week's episode of the Get Stuck on Sports TV edition. We'll be back next week. Talk more basketball. Get ready for the hockey regionals. We'll talk to you next week here on the Get Stuck on Sports TV edition right here on Thumbcoast TV.